Should we buy or sell Gaia? First off, read this disclaimer carefully. And do your good deed of today by liking and subscribing. So I have a theme that I call micro themes. So these are securities that are very interesting, but there's not enough of them to create a separate, theme category. So Gaia, they are in the holistic health business. So that's the closest thing I could get to some kind of categorization. 7% from the lows, but a whopping minus 64% away from the highs. This is their website. Watch, transform, belong. Gaia offers the largest online resource of consciousness expanding videos, over 8,000 informative and enlightening films, shows, yoga and meditation classes, and more that you won't find anywhere else. Yeah, they do have this whole free trial system. Here are some original series, about supernatural stuff. Third Eye Spice. I mean, there's definitively a market for this kind of content. Well, here is Stephen Greer. He has, a bunch of interesting books and documentaries. So, yeah, big into like UFOs. Yeah, I do think that this is interesting, and it's a very unique brand within this whole streaming landscape. What I find especially interesting for this company is that so Elon Musk has recently basically taken over Twitter. These types of documentaries they are a bit more controversial in terms of fake news and the like, but that also means that they could actually, from a a marketing standpoint, benefit uniquely benefit from Elon Musk acquiring Twitter. So that's something to watch out for. Maybe you're going to be bombarded by Gaia ads when you go to Twitter in the future. Okay, so let's jump into the charts. Weekly data points. Yeah, so obviously we have had a downtrend, but there's a big fat, but here. When we look back, we can look way back to 2004. We can look back here, 2009, here in 2013, here in 2016, and now we are currently testing a very major multi-decade horizontal support level. That is a big deal. So the primary assumption is that the bulls will use this as an opportunity to create support. Quite a few times in the past, this level has been very, very buyable. If we go back here, if you bought this horizontal support level, you could see a 506% gain here. In this case, you got 84%. That's decent. Here, as an example, you would have received 362%. So basically, this is a very interesting level. Obviously, if it were to break and turn into resistance, that would be bad, because this stock has been lower in the past. Based on the history of the stock, let's measure the max sort of like loss level vis-a-vis prior lows. That would be a downside here of almost 60%, which is completely unacceptable. You do not want to operate with a minus 60% stop level. That is way too much. Looking here at the daily data points, it's tantalizing. So obviously this stock is in a downtrend. That is clear. That is known. Looking at this, it looks rounding bottom-ish. It just does. This is still early, but we have a combination here. You are at a major horizontal support level. Recently, it's notwithstanding that there's been a lot of turmoil in the market, Gaia is showing some rounding bottom-ish behavior. This is not like a waterfall chart. Initially interesting. So let's look at the other indicators. In terms of the RSI, so the RSI is not exactly tradable, given that there's been these times in the past, like in 2018, where we were oversold for a protracted period. In terms of the PPOs, we are at levels that have formed key lows in the past. Looking at daily data points, in terms of RSI, we are sort of like towards the middle zone, a bit of a battle line. And also in the PPOs, we are a bit in noisy territory. Looking here at Finviz, we do see this purple diagonal trend line that is clear resistance. So let's go to the laboratory. I think this is clear. Horizontal support. I put an exclamation mark because this is big boy horizontal support, multi-decade. Very interesting. We also here have a rounding bottom. So yeah, well, in development, of course. The thing about a rounding bottom is that if you wait until it has fully formed, then obviously you could say, oh, the stock is in an uptrend. But the thing is that the beneficiaries of that rounding bottom are obviously those who got into the lower levels. You know, if you buy a completed rounding bottom, then one thing, you have missed out on a lot of moves. And there's a very real risk that there's going to be some mean reversion. So maybe if it forms, a cup and handle pattern, then, being a part of forming that, handle, that's not fun. But yeah, that is just how the market works. There's this layer of counterintuitive logic that you just have to accept. So even though initially it makes sense that you would want to buy, stocks that are in clear uptrends, the problem is that when you hit that buy button, you have not benefited at all from the move that happened prior to you hitting buy. And of all the stocks that are in an uptrend, a minority of them will continue to be in uptrends, and even smaller minority of them will be in an uptrend decades into the future. So that's the thing. Just be very careful when you hear people, look at Amazon and those winners, right, and say like, oh, it's obviously it was in an uptrend. If you bought stocks that made new 50-week highs, then that would be very good, but that completely ignores all of those that didn't work out. Okay, so in terms of giving the technicals a rating, so I will give the technicals a strong rating because it was very nice. But there's a caveat here. Okay, so I do give it a 7, but the 7 is completely contingent on horizontal support working. If horizontal support fails, then forget this 7 score. It's a huge deal that this multi-decade level actually attracts bulls. If the bulls are not able to buy this level, then what kind of level are they willing to buy? So here is the seasonality for Gaia. So over the last 10, 7, and 5 years, the seasonality tends to strengthen towards mid-May, but then it does weaken. So the seasonality here is not really that good. When we go to the left, over the last 5 years, we do see that May is very 50-50, June is very strong, and then we have the last 10 years. There is certainly a drop here from March to April and then May. And then over the last 20 years, like that, the seasonality is deteriorating. March very strong, April decent, and then May is weak. When we do look at the price action though of this year, so let's actually measure it like that. And if we start here on the first trading day of March, it would be this. This is the first of March. So you see here that, we definitively haven't benefited from the typical seasonality. So one could make a case that there usually is some seasonal strength for Gaia early in the year. In this year, we haven't seen it. Maybe it has shifted. That's a possibility. But given the facts at hand, the seasonality, it is, for the coming month, it's not really good. It was quite clearly a bit bearish, so I do give the bears a -4. Then we look at fundamentals. SAX has a number 3 hold rating, but we have a B value and A growth, but we have F momentum. Industry rank for top 41%, broadcast radio and television. Yeah, I guess we could agree. Market cap is still small, 99 million US dollars. No dividend yield. When we go here to insider activity, that is interesting. The recent moves here, 2021 though, a bunch of accumulation. So that is definitively what you want to see. That is bullish. Then we go here to Gaia. Market Screener is a pretty good website, but you are quite limited if you are on the free plan. Looking at the consensus estimates. Yeah, we only have 2 analysts covering the stock. Price target is 234% above. Highest is 305% above, so that is obviously pretty darn bullish. So this is the most recent change. So B. Riley lowers Gaia's price target to $13 from $17. But $13 is far above, the current stock price. The fundamentals here for Gaia, they are good. And so I think I will give the fundamentals here a solid 6. Part of the reason also why I give them a 6 is connected to what I said earlier on. There's very good reason to think that they will benefit from the changes coming to Twitter. I would be very surprised if they do not significantly increase their advertising, their Twitter advertising budget. Yeah, so interesting. Definitively very interesting. Here are some correlations. So 26% positive long term with the S&P 500. Then you have 7% with the leisure and entertainment ETF, PEJ. Then BNGE, that is a streaming ETF. No correlation here on the weeklies. PBS is the dynamic media ETF. 45% positive correlation. Yeah, daily data points. Yeah, unfortunately, we do not get any data here from the streaming ETF. Yeah, so let's just throw in Netflix. NFLX. Like that. Or maybe we should do a curiosity stream, because that is a bit more, educational-ish. Okay, so short term, 47% with the S&P 500, 69% with the entertainment leisure ETF, 92% here with curiosity stream, and then 90% with PBS. I think that it makes most sense here to look at PBS. So let's get the charts, because what happens to the PBS, statistically speaking, is likely going to affect Gaia. Though, to be perfectly clear, there is something very distinct about Gaia in this landscape. So the PBS ETF, it is heading, with a vengeance towards, a very key moving average. Red 200-week moving average being a big deal in the past. We haven't hit it yet, so we are not entirely sure what will happen. How far down is it? It is, a bit south of 1.5-ish% further downside. We are at the low level on the RSI and also some of the PPOs that tend to trigger reversals to the upside. The problem is, in 2020 and in 2008, the big bear markets, 2020, of course, was a bit of an anomaly, but anyway, it can go much lower. That's the issue. In terms of the daily data points, a bit of a similar message. We are at a low level, but we have been lower when there's been full bore panic in the market. Here is the relationship between Gaia and PBS ETF. We had the potentiality of forming some horizontal support around here, but that went out the window. So let's go here and look at the seasonality. Yeah, the seasonality here, it is pretty bearish for Gaia, heading towards early August. Yeah, so basically bad news for Gaia. Usually tends to underperform the PBS. Then we look at PBS against the S&P 500. I think one of the issues here for the bulls is that this relationship, it has a tendency to completely retrace the moves. So this entire rally, it was, completely then given back like this, almost, like a mirror. And that is a pattern that's also repeated itself here. This entire move was then just later on given all the way back like this. So if this move, as an example, is going to be given back, then there is certainly more downside. Let's look a bit at the seasonality. The seasonal strength for PBS usually peaks later into May, and then we do have a period of underperformance towards later June. So there is a possibility that the PBS could form some low near that super key 200 weekly moving average support level. That is very hypothetical, though. When we looked at some of the other data, it was a bit more bearish. So I do lean a little bit bearish here, but not like in a huge way. I give the bears a -2. So we do end up with a score of 1.8. So overall, the data, so interesting. So -1.8, and then we have 1.8 bullish. Okay. So the key part of the bullish thesis is definitively horizontal support. We also have a bit of a rounding bottom in development, but to be perfectly clear, horizontal support here is extremely important. The bulls have a major opportunity now, and if they are not willing to buy a multi-decade support level, then why would they buy, let's say, a 50 daily moving average support level? That's the thing. So yeah, it's all up to the bulls at this point. It's an opportunity they cannot afford to lose.